Marisha here, and the other day I was in line at the post office and there was an American couple in front of me, and they asked for 10 international postcard stamps, only to be told that such a thing does not exist. There's just international stamps. And then they were quoted the price, and the woman gasped and said, "Wow, that's expensive. Wow, that is a lot." And she just went on, and including telling the cashier that she had retired from the United States Postal Service. And so, like, she knew how much things cost, like, from an American perspective, et cetera, et cetera. And as an aside, I would say that when you find yourself traveling abroad and you run into a situation where you're a little bit shocked by something, like either it's the cost or maybe people do things differently than you do back home, whatever the case may be, hold your tongue for a sec and think about whether it's really appropriate to express that shock then and there. It's one thing to go back to your hotel room or to exit the building and, go on a side street or something, and then go on your Facebook or Instagram and say, "Hey guys, you would not believe how much it costs to mail a letter in the UK." It is another to stand there in front of that poor employee and say wow about 10 times and go on and on about the cost of postage when he is just trying to do his job. He has like no say in how much this stuff costs, and people are waiting behind you. Just conduct your business and move on. Now that that's out of the way, she's not wrong about the cost. It is expensive. So today I'm going to talk about the postal systems in the US and the UK, starting with cost. I'm just going to stick with the cost of letters and postcards because I think that's what most people would be sending internationally. So in the US, we'll talk about domestically as well. Um, Domestically, to send a letter, just normal way of sending a letter, I believe it's now 73 cents. It's gone up recently, I think. And to send a postcard, it's 56 cents. In the UK, there's no differentiation domestically or internationally between a letter and a postcard. What they do have, though, that the US does not have, is they have a first class option, they have a second class option. First class means that your letter or postcard will be delivered like the next day. Second class, 2 to 3 days. So, second class is really more the equivalent of what we would be dealing with in the US with sending a letter like the normal way. And obviously, when you think about this, the reason that a country like the UK can offer that first class option and it can be like a pretty normal, viable option is that it's the size of a state. It's actually smaller than my home state of Michigan. And so it's really easy to get from one place in the UK to another place within a day of driving. Or, okay, when you factor in Northern Ireland, obviously you have to do a ferry or a plane ride, but it's so much shorter than, for example, if you are trying to get from New York to California, right? To send mail that way and have it be guaranteed to get there the next day. That's why you have to pay a lot more money to do that in the States. So anyway, the cost of the first class stamp or postcard in the UK is £1.35. And when you convert that to dollars using today's exchange rate, it's $1.78. Yeah. To send it second class, and again, that's more realistically like what we would expect in terms of length of service, the delivery time in the US, 2 to 3 days. It's 85 pence, which is $1.12. So when you're talking about what's most comparable between the two countries, it's $1.12 to send something domestically versus 73 cents to send something domestically, which is a significant difference when you're talking percentages, right? Um, Internationally, to send a letter or a postcard from the US, and there's no difference. I could have sworn that in the past there was a difference, though, that we did have a separate stamp for letters versus postcards internationally. And I'm guessing that's why that woman asked for international postcard stamps. but I couldn't find evidence of it when I tried to research it online. So if you're someone who knows, like historically, in the past, did we used to differentiate internationally between letters and postcards? Please drop it in the comments because I'd love to know. But at any rate, we don't now. It is $1.65. UK, same thing, no differentiation, doesn't matter if it's postcard or a letter. £2.50. In dollars, that's $3.29. So, yeah, if she's mailing postcards to 10 friends, she is spending well over $30 just in postage alone. It is expensive. And so in that way, the US postal system is better than the UK postal system. But that's not the only thing to consider when talking about postal systems. Let's talk about customer service. Let's talk about the actual experience of sending and receiving mail. I think the most notable difference is in the receiving. And that is that in the UK, we have a slot in our door that the mail is delivered through. Obviously, just like letters and magazines and stuff, not packages. I'll talk about that in a second. Um, this is superior to what we have in the US, and there are actually several reasons why. So in the US, there's like one of two options. In most rural and suburban places, we have mailboxes. I think that's the one that people are most familiar with, is like that mailbox that's at the end of your driveway, right? You like open it up, it has the little red flag that you can put up when you want to send mail out. Um, you know, in urban areas, it tends to be more like, if you're in an apartment complex, for example, you're going to have like a place in the lobby with a set of mailboxes that are locked, right? Little locked. I mean, they look like lockers, really. Um, Now, the more popular, well known, I guess, like mailbox at the end of the driveway, mailbox. There are some problems with that. One is like obviously it would be really easy for someone to steal your mail, and this is something that I've seen Europeans bring up on the internet, where they're like, "Why do people do that? Like anybody could just steal your mail." Well, most people don't. Like it's not really a problem. Um, It doesn't happen very often. Now, porch pirates, that is becoming a problem with packages, but like just taking people's like normal mail out of their mailbox, I don't think it happens very often, but I'm sure it does happen. And I think if you were someone who was, for example, worried about being stalked or something like that, then it would be like a cause for concern. I think maybe a more even realistic cause for concern or problem with those types of mailboxes is that they can get vandalized or destroyed. There are people who will go out in cars, and this tends to be like kind of like teenage hijinks or whatever, usually more in more rural areas where they'll drive around at night and someone will be leaning out the passenger side with a baseball bat and just like whack uh, mailboxes to destroy them. Something that happened to our mailbox when I was a kid is our neighbor ran it over because she was distracted by an animal in her car. I can't remember if it was a cat or a dog that, like, I don't know, jumped on her or something. She swerved and went up over the curb and ran over our mailbox, which destroyed it. So we had to go buy a new mailbox. Obviously, this isn't something that happens like all the time regularly, but it is a potential problem that is not a problem when you just have a slot in your door. Um, the problem, it's also inconvenient when you are to walk to the end of your driveway to retrieve your mail when you are immobilized in any way. If you're like really sick, like you have food poisoning, or you're on crutches or something, or if it's pouring rain out, or there's been a heavy snowfall, things like that, it can make it like a real drudgery. Even though it is just going to the end of your driveway, it is inconvenient. um when you're talking about the mailboxes in urban areas, like the locked little mailbox, for me, the problem that I had living in the DC area is it was really not big enough to accommodate all of my mail if I had a magazine. So anytime that a magazine was delivered, it was like rolled up along with some of my other mail, usually that was coming, and like postman obviously just like crammed it in there. And so for me to get it out, it was like quite a tug, and sometimes I would end up tearing my mail to get it out. Um, None of that is a problem with the slot in your door, right? Like, you're sick, you're immobilized, you don't even have to leave your apartment. No one can damage your mailbox. You don't have to like fight to get your mail out. It's there, it's easy. Um, Another way that it is better is that if you are gone for more than a day, you don't have to have your mail held. In the US, you need to have your mail held, otherwise, it will build up and it won't all fit in your box. And people might see that it's like, your box is stuffed full, and then they'll know, "Oh, they're not home, let's break in," or your post office isn't able to deliver it, and then it's just a hot mess. So you have to have your mail held. But in the UK, unless you're going to be gone so long that your mail is going to actually pile up enough to keep you from opening your door, like, it's one less thing you have to worry about doing. You can just let your mail accrue, and it's right already there delivered at your house. You don't have to go pick it up from the post office like you do when you have it held in the States. Um, so I would say that in terms of mail delivery for letters and magazines and stuff, it is better. For packages as well. So in the States, obviously, packages are just left on your doorstep. And that is something that really confuses Europeans, because obviously people can just steal your packages, and people do. And it's becoming a problem in the States. And that's why people are buying, video camera, like doorbell video cameras and stuff, so they can like catch porch pirates and things like that. Um, in the UK, it's supposed to go that if you are not home, um, the postal worker will try again the next day. And then if you're still not home, they will leave you a slip saying that you have a package. And then on the slip is a phone number or a website. And then you can either call or go online and either arrange to pick it up from a post office, or arrange a time to have it delivered when you know that you'll be home. I have experienced this, but I have also experienced the postal worker just leaving the package on my doorstep under my doormat, as though porch pirates wouldn't notice a doormat hovering 6 inches in the air. To be fair, I've never had a package stolen, but I still don't like that they've done that when there is ostensibly a system in place that they should be following, where they don't just leave a package on your doorstep. Um, so, but it's still, I mean, it's still, I think, is better than the US, where the default is to just leave it on your doorstep. So delivery is better. And then talking about sending mail, not talking about the price, but like being able to get to the post office. This one, I don't know how objective I can be in terms of experience, because I only have experience in London. I don't have experience in more rural areas of the UK in terms of sending mail. But I think it's fair for me to compare my experience in London and my experience in Metro DC, because they're both big cities, right? And I would say that in London there are a lot more post offices than in the Metro DC area. I can walk to a place and mail my stuff here. I could not walk to a place in the Metro DC area to mail my stuff. So in that case, in that way, I would say that it's also better in the UK. Now, something that is interesting is that there aren't post offices, or at least I haven't seen post offices here, that are standalone post offices. They exist within a store. So it's usually either a stationery store. There's a chain here called Ryman. So there's a lot of Ryman stationery stores, and then there's usually sometimes a post office in those. But then there's also post offices in stores that are like what we would call convenience stores, similar to a 7-Eleven, where it's, cold drinks and some snacks, or over-the-counter drugs and maybe a few stationary items, things like that. Yeah, like a 7-Eleven or something. And then there's the post office is in kind of in the back corner. And I think that also means that the post office hours are a little bit better than what you would get in the US. Um, I don't remember the post office hours in Metro DC as well as I do in the town where I was growing up. Um, and I don't think it's fair to compare the two because in a rural town, I don't think the post office is going to be open as long because you're going to have much less clientele. Um, but I think I would say it's probably safe to say that even in the like Metro DC area, Saturday hours were probably not as good as the Saturday hours here. Saturday hours here are the same as Monday through Friday hours. We're pretty similar, at least in the post office that I most regularly frequent. So it is, I think, a little bit easier to get yourself to the post office, both in terms of how many post offices there are and how close they are to where you live, and also the hours in which they're open. So I think it's kind of a wash when you're comparing the two postal systems. On the UK side of things, customer service and experience, I guess, is better. And then on the US side of things, the cost is better. So it's a wash, I think, in my opinion. If you have ideas of things that you'd like me to talk about, if there are just burning questions that you have about what it's like to live in the UK or London specifically, or what are some of the differences, drop those in the comments section. But in the meantime, like, subscribe, tell your friends how gnarly this channel is, and I'll see you next time.